Sentire Media.
Ciao a tutti and welcome to Venice Talks, a podcast series dedicated to Venice in Italy. I'm your host, Monica Cesarato, a Venetian food and travel blogger. Join me as I share my insider knowledge to help you explore Venice at 360 degrees. In this weekly podcast, we'll dive into the heart of a city, uncovering hidden stories and connecting with the people who make Venice unique. The artisans, the writers, the fashion designers, the bloggers, the journalists, and more. Let's break free from cliché and discover the true essence of Venice, not just the monuments, but the vibrant people, the Venetians. Experience Venice the right sustainable way. You can find me on my blog at www.monicacesarato.com and across all social media platforms. Enjoy the episode and let's journey through Venice together. Welcome back to Venice Talks, Season 2, Episode 16. Hi everybody and welcome back to Venice Talks. Today I have a special guest. He is Luca Carnevali, Wine Hospitality Manager from Venissa in Venice. Ciao Luca, how are you?
Good morning, Monica. Good morning. Hi, thanks for inviting me here today. I'm fine. You?
Good. Finally, a little bit of sun, not much, but a little bit of sun is back.
Just a bit.
I feel like, the sunflowers that turn to the sun.
Yeah, sure.
I've been close for so long now. Right, first of all, let's explain everybody what is Venissa Wine Resort.
Well, it's not easy, actually, because...
Oh, I know. That's why I'm asking you.
Because actually, as you perfectly know, Venissa is a one-of-a-kind place.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, we have to call Venissa a project.
Yeah.
Venissa was born, and it still is, of course, as a project. A project that we can say was born back in 2001. Mm-hmm. And it was born due to the recovery of a particular varietal of grape, and actually an indigenous varietal of grape from Venice, from the lagoon, the so-called Dorona Grape, that used to be extinct, actually, since the 60s, since 1966, specifically, and the year of the Acquagranda, the highest ever tide. The highest ever registered tide here in Venice. And in fact, it was the highest, the longest, 10 days. And of course, all the vegetable gardens, the vineyards of the lagoon remained completely floated into salt water for 10 days. And that was, of course, the end of the viticulture in the lagoon and the end of this varietal as well, because this varietal, being indigenous, it was mostly grown in the lagoon. Of course.
Yeah, because many people don't actually realize that Venice now is not so, well, now it's getting better, but for centuries, we were growing wine in the city, in every single island, over gardens. We have vineyards everywhere. But
Absolutely.
of course, with this huge high water, everything got totally destroyed. So
exactly. For example, maybe not everybody knows that Piazza San Marco used to be a vineyard, for example.
I didn't know either. Okay.
By the end of the 12th century, there was a vineyard there that was sold in order to build up Piazza San Marco.
This I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny? Yeah. I always learn so many new things from you guys. It's so beautiful. I like that. Okay.
And in fact, due to this tide in 1966, this varietal, technically speaking, was declared extinct, and just 3 vines of this varietal were rediscovered again on the island of Torcello. So, 2 minutes away from Mazzorbo. Mazzorbo is the island where Venissa actually is. And in 2001, Gianluca Bisol, who's the founder of Venissa, rediscovered 3 vines in Torcello. And that recovery actually was the spark of this project. And so in 2001, he rediscovered these 3 vines, but the vineyard in the vineyard in Mazzorbo, where Venissa is today, was replanted back in 2006. So this means, when I said before a project, just by thinking about that, just 5 years just in order to plant.
Yeah, of course.
and 5 years of imagination, I can say, actually, because the estate where Venissa is today, actually, it was abandoned since 1966. So it was, I mean, the estate itself, all the facilities were completely abandoned, damaged by the 1966 tide. The nature was wild, of course. So 5 years of not only efforts, of course, investments, but imagination,
Of
Italian
course.
imagination,
Of
let's
course, of
say.
course. Also because Mazzorbo is a small island next door to Burano,
Exactly.
and it's been for forever just a little island with fishermen and the
Yeah.
locals, and it was like the little offshoot, let's say, of Burano in a way. But now that thanks to Venissa, has it's gone back to its popularity. I mean, because in the centuries before, not now, actually Mazzorbo was quite famous, it's quite big. It was one of the major islands of Venice as well. I just wrote a book about it, that's why I can tell you.
Yeah, but also because, I mean, for example, the origin of the name Mazzorbo is due to Maggior Borgo, that in
Mhm.
Italian means the bigger city,
Yeah.
let's say, of the area.
So they what's particular about this project is that it's not just a wine resort. It is so much more than that, and is, as you were saying, it's so unique. Why? Because it's not just about producing wine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we can say that in Venissa there are many souls. Let's
Mm,
call them in this way. I mean, for example, the state where Venissa is today, it used to be since the 13th century until the beginning of the 19th century a monastery. Uh,
mhm,
and in fact, there are the walls, there's the bell tower, and inside the walls there's the vineyard, of course,
yeah.
by Dorona Grape. Like I mentioned before, there's the wine resort, like you correctly said. We also have two restaurants. The Osteria Contemporanea, which is more similar to, let's say, a bistro, so
Mhm,
casual food, maybe comfort food to share, and also the Ristorante
mhm,
Venissa, which is one Michelin starred and also green star by Michelin as well. So
mhm.
there are, and there's also Casa Burano, which is a diffused hotel in Burano.
Uh-huh.
In this,
But we go back
yeah,
to that because I like to talk about that as well.
all right.
Back to the wine then, and then we talk about the restaurant. Back to the wine.
Yeah,
Um, I was very lucky because I think I'm one of the people that actually start to come to Venissa right from the start when we first opened. So I'm very happy about that. I saw it
all right.
growing. Let's talk about the experiences that people can do at Venissa from a wine tasting, but also a little bit the characteristic of this wine. What's different? What makes the Dorona and the Venissa wine different from other wines in Venice?
Well, of course, I mean, Dorona grape is a unique kind of varietal. And the lagoon, of course, is a unique kind of environment. And the French call this combination of varietal environment and also the cultural factor of a place terroir.
Mhm.
And the terroir in Venice is a unique one, of course, because I mean, we're talking about a varietal that is able to survive in an environment which is actually hostile
Of
to the,
course,
to the
salt water.
viticulture.
Salt water.
Exactly. I mean, the vineyard here at Venissa is 2 meters away. You know perfectly, is
Mhm.
2 meters away from the lagoon. So we are surrounded by the lagoon, and the lagoon is salt water, of course. So we're talking about salty humidity, salty winds, but most of all, a salty soil, of course.
Mhm.
But not only the salinity of the soil itself, but especially, I mean, again, the vineyard here at Venissa is 2 meters, 3 meters away from the lagoon. So ideally speaking, it's basically just like on the beach, we can
Mm.
say. And just like the beach, indeed, below our feet, if we dug in 80 centimeters in 1 meter, we could find the salt water. So,
Mhm.
usually the roots of the vines, they dig deep a lot. Here,
Mhm.
we can't, because as soon as they find the salt water, they spread out horizontally. So this is the only varietal able to survive in this kind of conditions. I mean, for example, I guess you remember perfectly November 2019, the
Mhm.
tide,
Mhm.
which was actually the highest since 1966. The vineyard here at Venissa remained completely floated into salt water for 4 days.
Whoa. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
the photos. I remember the photos.
exactly, which are kind of funny maybe
Yeah,
now.
well, to look at the fun, but they definitely
Exactly.
weren't fun when it
Exactly,
happened.
but it's interesting because I was talking about terroir. The vineyard remained floated into salt water for 4 days, November 2019, and the 2020 vintage, especially Venissa 2020, that will be released next year, so 2025,
Mm-hmm.
most likely will be the best vintage ever.
You're
Uh,
kidding. Oh my
exact.
God.
Yeah, because like they say, the vine needs to struggle, but the
Mm,
vine needs to struggle following its own heritage, its own attitude. This varietal, as we said before, belongs to this environment. This
mm-hmm.
varietal adapted itself century by century to this environment. And I mean, any other kind of varietal would have been dead in half an hour into salt water here in the lagoon. This varietal instead not only survived, but most likely will give us the best vintage ever. So
Mm. That's
uh,
one point interesting you say about today. There is an episode that's coming out on the podcast that I've spoken to a scientist for the Poland Institute when we're
uh-huh.
talking about the climate changes in Venice and the pollutions and stuff. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens to your wine this year, considering how much water, I mean, raining water we had.
Yeah, well, honestly, we needed this kind of water
Okay.
this year because, for example, I don't know if you remember in 2022, a couple of years ago, the summer
Yeah.
here, I mean, all over Europe was
Dry.
extremely hot, extremely dry. I
Yeah.
mean, we didn't see any rainy day for
Mm-hmm.
6 months in a row, something
I
like that.
know.
And so, of course, the vineyard here at Venissa suffered a severe drought, of
Mm-hmm.
course. And I mean, as you can imagine here, the drought is worse than a regular drought due to
Of
the
course.
salt
Of
factor,
course. Also,
of
because
course.
how do you do, where do you save water? You can't save water, can you?
Well, we have a well, actually.
Okay.
We have a well that picks the fresh water from 120 meters deep in the soil.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, for example, in Italy, you cannot water the vines
Of
if
course.
not in emergency, of course.
Of course. Of course.
And in 2022, it was definitely an emergency. So we watered the vines almost every day,
Okay.
but we've been able to give the 25% of the water needed by the vines. Long story short, this drought, due to the salt, of course, we lost almost 900 vines out of 4,000 that we,
Whoa, that's
yeah,
a lot. It's like a
exactly.
quarter nearly.
Yeah, and in fact, this is a big issue for us because this varietal, as I said before, knows the tides but does not know the drought.
Of course.
And in fact, in 2019, 4 days into salt water, we lost 150 vines, and we most likely we will have the best vintage ever. Into 2022, instead, due to the drought, and this varietal does not know the drought because the climate
Mm-hmm.
change is way faster than the adapting of the vines, of course, and we lost almost 1,000 vines. So
Wow.
it's a big issue, of course.
Yeah. What about the taste of a wine? What makes, I mean, I tasted it and I like it. I love it. But what's particular? So, as describing it, of course, for people who cannot taste it yet, but should come to taste it when they come to Venice.
Exactly. In fact, at first, I suggest to everybody who's listening to come over at Venissa
Of
and
course.
and taste the wines because it's not easy to describe the taste of a wine so unique because again the varietal is unique and the
Yeah.
environment is unique. I can say for sure that you have to expect first of all a golden wine. I mean, talking
Mm.
about the color itself is a golden wine, and also I mean, the origin of the name Dorona is due to
Yeah.
the color.
Of course.
Because in Italian, oro means
Yeah.
gold and
Of course.
dorato means golden.
Yeah.
And this varietal, it is called Dorona because it used to be called Uva d'Oro, grape of gold, due to the color. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
color of the wine itself is golden. and the concentration of this wine and also the bouquet of this wine. A lot of people ask me, is it a dessert wine? Because
No.
you saw it. I mean, the concentration is of the wine is way more similar, for example, to a red wine than a white wine. And
Uh-huh.
also the bouquet is very floral, very maybe honey scents, saffron scents. But then on the palate, as you can imagine, not only is very fresh, no sweet at all, but the signature of this wine, as you can imagine, is a slightly salty kick.
Yeah.
Because I mean, again, we are surrounded by the lagoon, in the air, in the water, in the soil. So there's this slightly salty feeling, but it's a feeling that lasts 3, 4, 5 seconds because it's not a salty wine.
Yeah.
That's, of course, the most important aspect. You have this feeling 3, 4 seconds, but then the taste of the wine is way longer than
Mhm.
the salty feeling.
I got to say, I've really enjoyed the last tasting I did at your place. I see how can I say, how the wine has progressed through the years. I
Yeah,
remember it when I first tried it. Well, we're talking about 10 years ago when we first opened, whatever. And the difference is huge difference. I mean, it's definitely mature. You can feel, you can taste it, you can see it, you can smell it. It's just there. Now, another great thing about the Venissa bottles are the bottles.
yeah,
They are so unique. I mean, you see the bottle,
definitely.
you know immediately it's yours. Let's talk about the story of these bottles.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that the Battle of Venissa is a little bit the quintessence of Venice, honestly, because the wine, as I said, is made with the native varietal from Venice, Dorona, rediscovered by us. The vinification of these wines actually is the traditional one from Venice as well. Maceration on the skins, so the skin contact, just like the red wines, basically, and then refinement into today is vitrified cement, but because we decided again to stick to the tradition, because here, I mean, before 1966, in the 50s, in the 40s, the easiest solution in order to refine the wines was the glass from Murano, of
Mhm.
course. So we decided to stick to the tradition using the vitrified cement. And then, speaking of the bottle itself, we have the combination of the two most important handcraftings from Venice, the gold leaf and the glass, again,
Mhm.
of course. And in fact, the label of the Venissa bottle is actually a 24 karat gold leaf, hand beaten by the last goldsmith in Europe, who is
Mhm.
here in Venice, Canareggio, the northern side of Venice. And I mean, this guy is the last one ever, actually, because unfortunately he's retiring in a few months.
Oh, I
And
know. I did an interview with a
ah,
podcast episode on the previous
nice,
episodes. So,
nice.
so, yeah, yes, I've interviewed Battiloro. Yes.
Exactly, Berta Battiloro, and in fact, Battiloro in Italian means goldsmith, and is a family involved in
Mhm.
this in this art since 7 centuries ago. And then the gold leaf, along with the bottle, of course, in Murano, Albertini Spezzamonte, with a particular technique. Basically, they bake again the bottle along with the gold leaf, and this makes the gold leaf melts into the glass. Basically, it becomes one piece altogether. You
Mhm.
can feel the edge of the label. Basically, it's all one piece, and then the design of the label is handmade once again, and it changes each year.
Mhm.
Each year,
Yes.
Venezia, of course, the label is always a gold leaf, but the hatching, the design changes each year. And the reason is that each year the theme of Venissa changes. Each year, Venissa has a different theme. For example, at the moment, the current release is the 2018 vintage, and the theme is the Renaissance. And it's the Renaissance because this is the first Venissa, I mean, by the style point of view, made by Matteo Bisol. Matteo Bisol,
Mm.
the son of Gianluca, the founder of Venissa, and he is the winemaker now, and he is into the so-called natural wines, so spontaneous fermentation, no filtration, indigenous yeast, which is an approach that is a little bit going back to basics, going back to the roots. by this pine wood, and this is the reason why it was called the Renaissance. And then, last but not least, below the label, it is engraved by hand, again, by Albertini Spezzamonte, in the glass, Venissa, the number of the bottle out of the total production of that particular vintage. For example, the current release, 2018, we're talking about basically 3,000 bottles.
That is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah,
That is absolutely
very
so
limited.
little. So not only you get an exclusive wine, but you also get an exclusive bottle of it's gonna stay. Is like a piece of a work of art.
It's art,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Oh
absolutely.
wow, it's amazing. Let's talk about the other parts of Venissa. So let's talk about the restaurants, both of them in general. What's characteristic is that most of the food you grow there in your own resort, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, given that both the osteria and the restaurant are meat-free, so the cuisine is based on especially fish and vegetables, of course. And in fact, here at Venissa, we have the vegetable gardens, which sustains the restaurants. I mean, most likely the 90% of vegetables we use at the restaurants comes from our own gardens, our vegetable gardens. So needless to say, organic, needless to say, from farm to table, needless to say, the freshness, of course, as well, because I mean, I guess
Hey,
you saw as
Luca,
well.
Luca, it's not
Yeah,
farm to table. It's like literally from just from table to table.
yeah, from table to table. In fact, I was going to say, I guess you saw many times our cooks coming back and forth from the kitchen in order to take something, vegetables, herbs, or something, because I mean, our garden is the market, basically.
And
And
I like about it the fact that you also have that anybody can walk through
yeah,
your gardens.
yeah, exactly. At Venissa, the gates are open, so everybody have the opportunity, is allowed to get in, to walk in, and to enjoy, especially the peace. You know what I'm talking
Oh
about,
yeah, I know.
because the peace at Venissa is something really difficult to find in Venice.
Mm.
Especially because Venissa and Mazzorba as well, of course.
Hey, we shouldn't say anything because then otherwise everybody's gonna start coming. It's not gonna be peaceful
You're
anymore.
right. You're right. So just come and see. Come and see. Come
Okay,
and experience.
okay. Hear it, but don't listen to us. No, it's true. Mazzobo, I always say, for me, is a magical place. You can go right to the end of the island, go to the little church, and I've been thousands of times to the church, and I was always the only person there.
Yeah,
It is
yeah,
incredible. I love Mazzorbo, and you can just walk, and it is serene. It's total calm, even on
definitely.
busy days, because even when it's very busy.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I love the fact that you have locals that come with the kids playing in the gardens and stuff
In the
like that.
garden, yeah, absolutely. But we also have, for example, few spots of our vegetable gardens are managed by volunteers from Burano. And what they grow, of course, remains to them. So is this is another side of our project, you
It's a
know.
beautiful synergy that you have with the island.
Exactly. Exactly. Being part of the community, being part
Mm.
of the community, of course.
And that's why also you developed, as far as I understood from previous management, whatever people have spoken to, that's why you develop also the Casa Burano, that is this series of accommodation spread all over the island of Burano, but are
Exactly.
managed by you. And you is fantastic because I know that in the morning you take the breakfast and everything to these people with a list.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it's a little bit a different way to experience Burano because I mean there are no hotels actually
Yes.
in Burano,
Yep.
and so thanks to Casa Burano, which is this kind of diffused hotel, you have the opportunity to experience Burano even during the evening, during the night, and I mean Burano during the day is crowded. We have to say that. But during the evening, you can see this beautiful island because it's truly amazing. These
Oh, from
beautiful colors.
from 6, 7 o'clock. It's
Exactly.
empty. It's
Exactly.
beautiful. Beautiful.
Exactly.
I actually, I don't come often to Burano in the nighttime, but years ago, a couple of years ago, I think I stayed there. It was August and it was hot. It was terrible. But I got to spend the night there at a friend's house, and I was shocked that at 7 o'clock, the place was empty, and it was
Empty.
just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the locals sitting out with their chairs, chatting, drinking, whatever.
Exactly. You can see the let's call it the real
Yeah,
Burano.
yeah, that's very nice. And how many accommodation have you got spread in the island?
In Burano, we have 5 houses that hold
Okay.
13 rooms.
Okay, okay. When
And
instead
yeah,
in Venissa, how
it's a
many?
five
Okay,
rooms.
so you still you can't even be defined as a boutique accommodation because it's so small. Can't even
Yeah,
say it's that. It's more like a home in a way, aren't you?
yeah. It's a very comfy, but again, it's a very quiet place. And in fact, especially in the last couple of years, a lot of people maybe spend a few days at Venissa Wine Resort because they're looking for a little bit a place with a different point of view from Venice. Because I used to call Venissa Wine Resort a vacation from the vacation
Yes.
because it's a little bit the opposite. You are not in Venice trying to escape, but you are on a very quiet, very peaceful island. And then if you want to go to Venice, it takes you half an hour, and you are in Venice right away. It's a little bit a different point of view.
Hmm. I tell you what, I think it's also a great location if you want, if you've already been to Venice and you're a bit fed up with crowds and stuff, also as a starting point to do the islands.
Yeah,
To do the other islands, and then from there, not just Burano,
which are
Turcello,
beautiful.
and Murano, but also Sant'Erasmo,
Exactly.
Vignole, and all the others. And yeah, I think, and I got to say, for me, Mazzorbo remains one of my favorite little spots. I hope we, by talking so much about it, not gonna be too many people moving. But at the same time, it does deserve to be visited again. So,
Yeah.
Luca, how did you end up at Venissa? How did you go into the world of wine?
Well, it's a little bit of a funny story because my life until a few years ago was completely different. I used to
As
work
everybody in Venice,
exactly,
mostly, yeah.
exactly. I used to work basically my entire life since I was 20 until I was 30, basically in the Red Cross. So
Oh, okay,
totally
that's
different.
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay,
totally different subject. But actually, I'm not from Venice. I'm from Oltrepò.
okay.
Oltrepò is a sub-region in Lombardy.
Sei un foresto, is a
Exactly. I'm a foresto, like the Venetian says. Yeah, Oltrepò is a sub-region, is a wine
Mm,
sub-region actually, just below Milan.
one of
So
the most famous.
exactly. So I grew up surrounded by this culture anyway. But
Hmm.
a few years ago, I decided to become a sommelier, but just as a hobby at
Hmm.
first. And then I decided when I was 30 something, just like a lot of people of my age, actually here in Italy,
Hmm.
I decided to change life, change work, change everything. And I was very lucky, I have to admit, because when I became sommelier, when I decided to work as a sommelier, my goal was to work at Venissa and doing what I'm doing.
Oh,
So
okay. So you already knew you wanted to come here.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah. When I became sommelier, my goal was I want to work at Venissa because I've been in love my entire life with Venice.
Uh-huh.
And as you know, there are no many vineyards
Well, no, well,
in Venice.
they weren't. Let's say in the last, since I think
Yeah,
20,
the last few years.
2019, there's a lot of rediscovering. So now
Uh,
we got the associations like Laguna nel Bicchiere, you have
Exactly.
the monks at the Scalzi that are growing vineyards there. You have more islands now getting involved. So it is. Reborn, let's say.
Yeah,
As you were saying, the Renaissance of vineyard as well, I think.
yeah,
But as you say, yeah, originally it was only Venissa. When people
exactly.
say, "Oh, do you grow wine in Venice?" Everybody laughed and said, "No, we don't." But now we
Yeah,
do. But no. So
they
you
don't laugh
actually,
anymore.
how did you find out? How did you find about them through social medias or what?
No, it's funny again because I discovered Venissa just like Gianluca rediscovered the vines, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because in 2017, I was in Torcello and I noticed the very same vineyard where Gianluca rediscovered the vines.
You're
So,
kidding.
yeah,
Okay.
so I searched on Google few informations and of course they led me to Venissa. And when I
Ah,
discovered, I mean, there's a beautiful place in Venice with a vineyard, with a wonderful story and an interesting project, I say to
uh-huh.
myself, well, sooner or later, I have to work over there.
Well, you
And
know what they say
I've been
about
lucky.
fate, you
Yeah,
know.
sometimes it works.
Yeah, no, well, sometimes people, I believe, I'm a strong believer in fate, and I think of a people are meant to be in certain places at a certain time at the right time, and they're meant to meet the right people. So it's meant to be, as they say in English, and so
Absolutely.
eventually you met. When did you come to Venice then, to Venice?
2021.
Ah, okay, so you've been here 3 years. Oh, just after COVID or in the middle of COVID?
Yeah, in the meanwhile, basically, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, probably one of the best time to come over because obviously there wouldn't have been the masses of tourists that there were before. So you kind of got time to
It
get
was
accustomed.
a soft beginning, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, 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 yeah. And so what kind of clients come to Venisa?
Well, honestly, I have to say, especially people from abroad, from the States, definitely, from UK, but Canada as well, Australia as well.
Mhm.
Also, a few people, honestly, even more and more in the last few years from Venice and from the Veneto region, because
Oh, okay.
yeah, because maybe it sounds silly, but it's not that easy to get the people from Venice or from Veneto region to visit Venice, even if it sounds like a paradox, maybe. But is it's pretty common for us as an Italian maybe to have beautiful places just few kilometers away and say, well, I'm gonna go in the future,
Absolutely,
and then
absolutely.
you never go visit them.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, of course. And then I think also having been many times, and so I know what other people think from outside. I've been, so I don't have a feeling, but
yeah,
because it's a wine resort, because it was on social media. So I think there is also this idea that is a bit like, uh, it's too, how can I say, a bit too much for me,
yeah,
as the locals. When instead, I've been many times, it is beautiful. I love to come here also because you hold many events and you work a lot with the Biennale, as far as I know.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
that's a great opportunity, just to come because you always have works of art spread all over, uh,
Exactly.
whatever inside. And I know one thing that you do. I don't know if you still do it, but you used to, and I hope you still do. You used to also exhibitions from local artists.
Uh-huh. Yes. I don't know for this year, maybe later this year,
Okay.
but I think it's going to happen this year as well. But yes, every 2 years, along with the Biennale, we used to have expositions. But also, for example, at the entrance of our ristorante,
Mm-hmm.
on the right of the entrance, there's this installation made with Venissa bottles that was
Mm-hmm.
shown at the 2017 Biennale of Art at the Venice Pavilion.
Oh, I
So
didn't know this.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I
yeah,
always seen it. I didn't think much of it. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't
yeah,
think
yeah,
it
yeah,
was,
yeah.
I thought it was part of your, of
No,
the.
no, that's a certified piece of art.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. But I got to say, I've been like 4 or 5 times to some exhibitions that you had from local people, like local artists, painters, photographers. And I think it's a great location because your space is so
Yeah.
big and it's so bright. I think it's one of the best places to have exhibitions there. So, finally, what do you hope a guest take away from experiences at Venissa? Both when it comes down with for in terms of wine knowledge and cultural immersion. What would you like them to take back with them?
Well,
Apart from the bottles of wine, of course.
yeah, sure. Well, something that moves me, I can say each time is the reaction in people's eyes. I
Mm.
mean, you see immediately that they are experiencing something which is unique, one of a kind. And they know that. They know that immediately. You can see in people's eyes that they are thinking, "Oh my God, I'm in a place that I've never dreamed of, honestly." And in fact, a lot of people come here at Venissa telling me, my friend told me, my father told me, my colleague told me. So it's especially a word of mouth. And
Yes.
when it's a word of mouth, means that the experience, it is worth the visit. Uh, I guess also because it's not that easy, or let's say it's not that fast to get Venissa, because I mean from Venice takes 40 minutes, and to get Venice is not easy as well. So it takes a little bit, but it is worth the visit,
Oh,
because that
absolutely.
it is
Absolutely.
definitely something that you can see. Is Venice, of course, Venissa and Mazzorbo are part of Venice, but they are a world apart
Of
uh,
course. Of
from
course.
Venice, and
Absolutely.
also because that part of the lagoon, Torcello, Burano, Mazzorbo, they are the so-called native Veni.
Oh, I know. I just wrote a book about it that hopefully it
Exactly.
should be out in English soon. So where it tells that is dedicated just to every single island of Venice. There's more than 40. So people should realize Venice is not just Venice.
Exactly.
One last thing, when people come to the wine tasting, do you take them also out to visit the vineyard or not?
Yes, yes, of course. But
Okay.
especially, I mean, now in the springtime, in the summertime, I mean, as long as the weather is fine,
Yeah.
usually we have the tastings outside.
Ah,
And
okay.
yeah. And we have a particular spot which is 2 meters away from the vineyard. So of course, every tasting, the visit to the vineyard is included. But again, during the springtime, summer, we have the tastings outside, so
Fantastic.
we are in the vineyard basically.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so now technical stuff. Where can people find you as in website and social media?
Well, of course, venissa.it is our website, and you can find us in Instagram, Facebook, of course, the most important social media, LinkedIn, as Venissa.
Yeah.
That easy.
Perfect. Okay, Luca, it was so nice talking to you. You gave me so many information. I knew you were the right person to talk to. When I met you the other time, I thought, he's the right guy. This is the guy to interview because I've been trying to get an interview with Venissa for at least 2 years now. Okay, so it was a long time in the making, but at least we got there at the end. Thank
No.
you so much. I know you got a lot of work to do, and I just hope the weather's gonna be a bit nicer from now on, so at least you can get a lot of visitors.
All
Thank you
right.
again.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye bye.
Grazie, ciao ciao. Thank you again, Luca, for this very informative chat about the wines of Venice. You can find Luca and all his team at Venissa at www.venissa.it and on all social medias as Venissa. Thank you again for listening. Venice Talks podcast is a production of Sentire Media, created, produced, and hosted by me, Monica Cesarato. Follow Venice Talks wherever you get your podcast, and if you want to book a food tour or a cooking experience with me, you can find me over at www.monicacesarato.com and on all social medias with the handle at Monica Cesarato, where you can follow my adventures around Venice. And don't forget, if you love this episode, please rate it and leave a review. It's very much appreciated.
Sentire Media.
Hey, podcast producers and show hosts. Do you want to join a podcast network that celebrates all things Italian? At Sentire Media, we understand the allure of Italy and its unique culture. Our devoted team of hosts and producers are all driven by their shared passion for Italy. And we work tirelessly to create the best lifestyle podcasts and content that will whisk you away to the very heart of Italy. With us, you can savor the mouth-watering flavors, get lost in the stories from the past, break down the cultural barriers, and truly immerse yourself in the vibrant traditions of this intoxicating country. If you have a great podcast idea or are already in production and would like to join Sentire Media, head over to sentiremedia.com, that's SENTIRE media.com, and find out how to submit your show.